Why don't we bring on the man himself, the voice play-by-play announcer for the Union, many other Fox Sports, you name it, he's out there
World Club, you
everywhere.
name it,
Yeah,
anywhere he's there.
he's there. JP Dellacamera, it was great to see you down at the Union Stadium last week. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Great to see you guys as well. When was that? Last Sunday, right?
Feels like a
Seems
long
like
time ago, right?
it was weeks ago. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Time
have,
time stands still.
have you gotten out of the parking lot yet?
It took a while. It took a while, but you know what, guys? When I see a game like that, I don't mind waiting. That was a big time moment in Philadelphia Union history. That crowd was amazing, and the effort that those players gave was amazing. We had talked. We did the game on radio, Danny Higginbottom and I, and we had spoken about how in a 24-hour period, the story changed from favorites to underdogs, and the underdogs scored first and could have won the game.
Okay, so when they scored that goal, I can't remember. You've been to probably a lot more games than we have. I can't remember the stadium shaking the way that you could physically feel it shake after they scored that first goal.
Yeah, it was loud, and I remember when the goal was scored. I first thought it was Shabilko was the own goal, right? I was thinking it was Shabilko from my angle. Couldn't see it as clearly as others could, depending on where you were sitting. But either way, it's a great goal that they scored, to get on the board first from the pass that was made, and then the finish. And I remember saying something like, will this be the biggest goal in Philadelphia Union playoff history? I said, we'll have the answer in about 30 minutes, I think I said. And then I came back later after the NYCFC scored, and I think I said, I've just answered my own question. It only took about like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I said the answer was no, it was not the biggest goal in their playoff history. But I do remember the stadium was exploding. It was really loud.
The mix of excitement and tension in the stadium was this amazing push and pull of what was going on. I wanted to take a step back with you, though, for our listeners who aren't as familiar. You talk about how they went from favorites to underdogs. Can you explain a little bit what happened, how the Union ended up with 11 players in protocol, with
wow.
Jim Curtin saying after the game they're at home watching healthy?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had more answers. COVID is something that nobody can seem to explain, right? Like, why does one team have one guy or two guys that get it, nobody else gets it, and yet, you're all in close proximity. We're seeing Tottenham recently had, what was it, 9 players, something like that were not able to play, and 5 coaches. We've seen that, from other teams elsewhere. So nobody seems to know, but I think everybody has different protocols, right? So the league has certain guidelines that they have. Teams are operating this way, doctors are operating this way, but I take Jim at his word when he says, that we had 11 guys at home, basically with a case of the sniffles. So he's really saying that, they had no symptoms, and so, you had 19,000 plus people in that stadium, right? That didn't go through COVID testing like players go through. And yet, they're in the building, right? So it seems like almost like there was a double standard, right? One for players and one for 19,000 people that were not 6 feet apart, guys.
Right.
If they were 6 feet apart, the crowd would have stretched into the city of Philadelphia proper. You have 19,000 people and they're all in there. So I felt bad for Jim. I mean, I felt bad for every player, but the players that I felt bad for the most were guys like Andre Blake, Ali Bedoya, what a great captain. And here he is on the sideline, can't play. Jacob Glesnes, who did not miss a minute of any game all season, missed 1 minute in a Champions League game. I don't remember why they took him off and why, like, in the 90th minute, but, every minute he was a warrior. And here he is. I assume all these guys were watching the game on ESPN at home because I'm sure they were not going to be allowed in the stadium if they had tested. We can't even say tested positive, right? Because all they say is health and safety protocols.
Right.
So I'm not aware, guys, that 11 guys and a couple of coaches tested positive. That's not the way I understand it. I don't know what the terminology is, but they could not play due to MLS health and safety protocol, which doesn't mean necessarily that they have it, but maybe they were in close contact with somebody that was, or was around somebody that didn't follow the quarantine. But, I heard all kinds of rumors, and none of those were true about, what happened, how it spread, and all that. So, it is what it is. Great effort. Sorry for the team that they didn't have everyone healthy. I think if everyone's healthy, I think they're in MLS Cup.
So before we get to how do they recover from this, the question that I had is even after they scored the tying goal, NYCFC, I can't say that fast enough.
I know it's hard.
We get to the, I believe, 88th minute, and they score.
Yep.
What happened at that point? Was it just that these guys who weren't used to playing this much just wore down?
Well, first of all, I think NYCFC is a fantastic team, and as great a player as Castellanos is, and I think he's one of the very best in the league. You can easily replace one guy compared to 11 guys, and what was it, 5 starters? It's much easier. This was a whole new back line that the Union had, and the only guy, I feel bad for Bizo, that was like an individual breakdown on that side. On the last play, and it's never one guy's fault. How did the ball get there in the first place? And, could anybody else have helped, in that situation? But I think it's just one of those things that happens. It's like a Stanley Cup winning hockey coach once said to me, you know what the game's about? He said the game is about individual plays. And he said there's probably 3 or 4 of those in a game, and how you handle those is what makes you a winner or a loser on that day. And that was like 88th minute. I know one thing. I'm sitting there in the radio booth thinking, this surely is going to extra time. And I'm already thinking in my head, is this going to go to penalties? Like, what kind of drama? Like, how is this going to play out? And so that goal came from, to me, really like out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting that.
Well, and the story would have been unbelievable leading up to that minute.
Oh, yeah.
Still an amazing story in terms of the players that they had on the field. I mean, you look at Colin, 37 years old, hadn't been on the field at all, had been more like a coach, and he's out there playing the whole time. So, I mean,
and he played pretty well.
He did.
Played pretty well.
And look, the thing with the Union, we always talk about it, Jim Curtin sort of represents the heart of the city, like he is a Philly guy. That team played with the toughness that fans in this city respect and appreciate. They didn't say,
for sure,
we're underdogs, we don't have a chance, our back line is out, our captain's out, our brick wall goaltender's out. They went out there and they put it on and had a chance to win.
Yeah. Aurelian Collin hadn't played a regular season game in 2 years, right? Stuart Findlay has only played in a handful of games. He was next to him. Bizo was the only guy there that was a regular starter for this team. Nathan Harrell had never played a game in MLS as a left back, and yet, there he was. So one of the greatest things about this team was its consistency during the year, when you figure out that if you take Blake and the 4 in the back as a 5, I mean, Glesnes played, as we said, every minute. Elliott played full 90s in every game but the one game he was suspended for. Wagner and Bizo were probably close to 30 games started or 30 games played. Like, these guys were together, and now you're throwing out a goalkeeper who had only played in 3 or 4 games this year. A left back who had never played there before. Findlay, who had only started a handful of games. Colin, who hadn't played in 2 years. And the game was scoreless for the longest time. I thought the longer this game stays 0-0, the better chances the Union would have. I didn't see, if it was going to be a high-scoring game, I would have guessed based on that lineup that NYCFC would be the team that would be on top. So, full credit to them for the way they gutted this one out. They all bought in. I know Jim likes to say, next man up, but it felt like the next 11 up. They weren't trying to fill one spot. They were trying to fill all of these places. The best thing they had going for them, though, was, you had your two number 10s and Shabilko. Flock was still there, Martinez was still there. So I thought that they still had a good enough base that if they kept it close, they could find a way to win.
All right. So the season's over. This is the farthest they've ever gotten. What
Yep.
do they need to do? I know it's early. What do they need to do next season to get them to the next level? Last year it was the Supporters Shield. This year it's the conference finals. We're hoping next year they get there. What do they need to do, and what do they need to keep, or what's leaving?
Well, I think Ernst Tanner said it best. I can't remember which day it was. A couple of days ago, he says we're looking for a striker. That's the top priority. So I think they recognize that Shabilko was the only guy that they could really count on. As talented as I think Sergio Santos is and Corey Burke is, they missed a lot of games due to injury. So Kacper was the only guy that you could count on to score goals, and he was streaky. So he ended up with, 12 for MLS, 17 when you factor in, all of the games combined, but he was streaky. And if he wasn't scoring, during one of those slumps, it seemed like no one was scoring. So whether they play next year whether they go back to that 4-4-2 diamond, whether they go back to what they finished with this year, the 4-3-2-1 using the two number 10s, I don't know, but they do need another striker, maybe two, depending on what other guys' situations are. So one top-notch striker for sure, and when I say top-notch striker, I mean a goal scorer, somebody that can get you minimum of 15 goals and preferably more. If they get that, and that's all that they get, I think they are significantly improved. I think re-signing Glesnes is huge. I would have guessed that there might have been some interest in him overseas. Getting him is good. I don't know what's going to happen, though, about other players, right? And I'm not trying to start rumors, but, I mean, if I'm a team in Europe, I'm asking about Kai Wagner. I'm asking about Jose Martinez, I'm asking about Gazdag if they could get him back, Montero. They've got guys that other clubs in other countries are interested in. So I'm saying to you that striker is the top priority, and if they brought back this exact same team, which they won't, but if they did, and they just added a guy that could score 15 to 20 goals, they're already a much improved team. But I still think off season, somebody will probably leave, right? I would think, somebody will make an offer for somebody. I don't know who, but hopefully it's not too many. But I think the core group is really good. And then you've got the young kids like Paxton Aronson, Jack McGlynn, Quinn Sullivan, assuming that they all stay, and not have interest from overseas. And I know that there is interest in them overseas, but I don't know what the dollars are. But assuming those three guys stay, I think their minutes will go up significantly next year.
That was sort of my question. It seems like they have a little bit of flexibility potentially to explore moving some of those players overseas when you've got young guys like Paxton and Jack McGlynn, Nathan Harriel, who played well in that game, who barely got any time during the season. So what do you think the role of the young players will be next year? How expanded do you think that would be potentially?
Well, I think that if you look at the three of them, I mean, they could all compete for a starting position. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I think Paxton Aronson showed when he had to start in games, what he could do. So if those three do come back, for sure, significant roles. But they'll also be on the U.S. Under 23 radar. They already were at the end of this year, right? So those are three guys that would get more playing time. I think that, the rest of it, I guess we'll see. I mean, I'd love to see that back four return intact with Blake and have Jose Martinez there. And maybe they can keep those guys. So I think, to me, everybody has opinions on players, right? Martinez is one of the best in the league as a holding midfielder. So I hope that they can keep him. And Kai Wagner, to me, one of the best left backs, justified his all-star selection earlier this year. So, and I know there's interest in those guys, but there always is. So the trick is, Ernst knows what he's doing, obviously. I mean, Philadelphia is the talk of this league now in how they've operated this team in terms of the money that's been spent, in terms of the academy. There's a myth out there that they don't spend money on players. They do. You know, the players' salaries are part of public record with the Players Association. You know, they are spending some money on players. So I think that's a myth. And I've seen, you know, other teams say this is a way we can get it done. We don't have to spend $31 million or whatever that figure was that Atlanta spent or Toronto spent. They can do it this way. And so Philadelphia went from a team that people weren't having in the conversation to a team that others are trying to emulate more and get away from, you know, their own business plan.
Yeah, but the thing about success is, especially in the front office, is that everybody wants to duplicate it and everybody wants to steal it. So
Right.
you have Ernst, but you also have Jim Curtin, and the rumor was out there, and we're all holding our breath for the answer to this. Tell us Jim Curtin's not going anywhere.
I hope so. I hope he's not going anywhere. I know he's got. I think it's 2 years left on his contract. So I think for any team to try to get him, you know, they would have to ask permission of the union, and I think the union refused. At least that's what the rumor is. I didn't ask Jim myself. I thought he had a bigger fish to fry on game day, so I didn't want to bring that up to him. You know, I was mostly talking COVID stuff. But I did see the rumor out there. I had heard that rumor, by the way, over a month ago before it was ever printed. I think it makes sense that Chris Albright would approach Philadelphia to see if he was available. Everything that I read said that Philadelphia said no.
JP, we can't thank you enough, man. It was great to see you at the stadium. We enjoyed hearing your voice all season. Look forward to seeing what you're calling in the Union offseason and then getting you back on as this all starts up again. Always appreciate the time, man.
That'd be great. I didn't realize how quickly the season was starting until I read somebody wrote 6 weeks until preseason. I'm thinking, wow, that's that's early. We get started now late February, so that's great.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see what this team does to make themselves better to contend for MLS Cup next year.
Sounds good, man. You have a great day. Thank you so much.
You too. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.
Jeff, he's right. The atmosphere down there was just truly unbelievable.
It's been incredible. I mean, I'm telling you that it was amazing to be there. It was amazing to, I don't know, when I walked in the building, I didn't think it was over. And I didn't get the impression that everybody else thought it was over because half their team wasn't able to play.
No.
And if you were watching, if you went to the World Series or you went to the National League Championship, and at the National League Championship, they announced the day before, Bryce Harper's not playing, JT Realmuto's not playing, Rhys Hoskins isn't playing, Zach Wheeler's not playing, and name a couple other players that are really good that aren't playing. How many people would be selling their tickets on StubHub or trying to?
Oh, without a doubt.
That place was sold out, and I don't think there was a single person there that didn't think that somehow they could pull this out.
It was totally electric down there, and it was an absolute blast. And it's a shame that they had to play through what they did. It's a shame how it ended. But again, they continue to be one of the most fun teams in the city, and you should go out and catch a game next year. It'd be good. Jeff, why don't we hit the break? When we come back, we'll talk a little more. We'll get to Leroy Horde. Stick with us, and we'll come back.
Operating engineers are the men and women that move mountains. And the Engineers Labor Employer Cooperative, ELEC, puts them to work. They create opportunities for the men, women, and union signatory contractors of Local 825, repaving our roads, keeping our homes bright and warm, and even building our favorite team stadium. We understand infrastructure. That's why ELEC and Local 825 are ready to get to work.
Jeff, that was a fun one. Always great to see and talk to JP. Obviously, after 4:30, if you keep listening here, you can catch us on the stream. You can catch us on the replay on Tuesday. You can catch the interviews out online. So plenty of places to keep watching.
You can catch us on the podcast, on iTunes.
Well, it's funny.
Google Play.
We never do that.
What?
We don't publicize where you can find us. You can literally find us everywhere. You can subscribe on SoundCloud.
Many of our family members would be dismayed at that, wouldn't they?
Believe me, they hear way too much of me talking.
Wait, I can listen to you other places? Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know that they want to hear me, but they can, and sometimes you can even see these interviews on YouTube.
Yes, but can can they hear you do a fake accent in the South?
I am not Brian Kelly. So no. And I know that you were watching that and got a kick out of
Why?
that when it happened.
Why do that? Why? Now, he is an experienced recruiter, okay?
Mhm.
Does he not know that every other coach in the SEC is going to walk into a recruit's home and now go, this guy left his team on the eve of finding out if he was going to be in the college football playoffs. And by the way, he came down here, and this guy is such a phony that he can't even be himself, especially Nick Saban. Nick Saban doesn't go down and pretend that he's from Alabama. He's confident in himself. Brian Kelly walks down there, and he tries to put on a Southern drawl.
Were you surprised?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Oh, come on. No, you weren't.
Yes, I am, because I'm surprised that somebody that's been around the sport for that long, talked to that many parents, done that many press conferences, is that clueless.
Actually,
as to, because you don't think he's walked into other people's homes and criticized other coaches for being phony and that you can't count them on them and something else?
look, I know it's hard to say goodbye, but you would think he'd get better at this. Like, his daughter is still a student at Notre Dame. She now has to deal with the fact that her father left.
Yeah, well,
in the
that's
middle
not
of
her.
the
That's
night,
not her
basically.
fault.
But
I hate that stuff.
That's the thing. She's going to have to be subjected to that because he couldn't even handle it the right way.
I mean, think about it. I don't know. I mean, you can jump right to the whole, in a worse situation, the whole thing with Matt Nagy and people at his kid's sporting event, or I think it was the school football game.
Fire Matt Nagy.
You cannot do stuff like that
while Matt Nagy's in the audience.
Yeah,
crowd.
like you can't do that. The level of crassness and classlessness it takes to do that in front of, like, for anybody who thinks it's okay to chant fire somebody, yes, you have freedom of speech, but keep in mind that there is a kid that's wondering whether his father or mother is going to lose their job, and that is a big thing for a kid. If you're doing it at a professional stadium, they can say to their family, you know what, maybe it's best you don't come, like Matt Stafford's wife, for other reason.
Sometimes it's that so that you don't comment and make the situation worse. Look, it's got to be hard to be family, though. I mean, thankfully for my kids, I won't have any athletic ability that they won't critique.
Nobody will be criticizing and hoping that the team trades you, huh?
No,
is that
not
what you're
at
saying?
all. But I mean, that's got to be
There's
hard.
still shuffleboard. Not shuffleboard. Curling. That's always been my dream.
The Winter Olympics are coming up.
It is the old man's dream that you can become a curler and be in the Olympics.
Are you going to watch?
I've gotten the point.
Do you watch the Winter Olympics?
I like the Winter Olympics better than the Summer Olympics, but it's just gotten to the point where I don't want to watch an Olympics with nobody there. Do you?
Okay, that is
like watching downhill skiing without the people, with their cowbells and all the people on the sideline and that kind of stuff.
I like bobsledding.
Yeah, that too. But
I'd be way too afraid to do it. But I totally love other people doing it.
If we can find somebody that can help us do it, no, we are going up to Lake Placid and doing it. That is a dream of mine.
I have agreed to sleep outside in the cold. I have tried out
you
for a minor league basketball
in a
team.
sled?
Jim Curtin has said that people can take penalty kicks on me. There is zero chance that I get in that sled and go down the ice.
We can go slow.
Absolutely zero.
We don't have to go 90 miles an hour.
That happens.
Are you serious?
You can go take one for the team.
I wasn't saying that you were going to go. What's the other thing? Skeleton.
Yes. That ain't happening either.
wait, there's one they go down feet first, and the other one, just because feet first isn't enough, that you can go down head first.
Yeah, that's not going to happen either.
Which one's that?
I don't know. I don't even like going down the kids' slide head
one's
first.
So luge is feet first, and I think skeleton is head first.
You're correct.
I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to go down in a sled with sides.
Okay, so did you ever see Cool Runnings?
Yes.
Where they start off where they just kind of gently push on the flat part of the ice.
Yeah.
That's my kind of bobsled. Going down the hill when you're 80, 100 miles an hour.
Come on.
Zero chance.
I'm not asking you to jump out of an airplane.
Zero chance.
It's
not going to do that either, so it's cool.
Just sledding. You didn't sled as a kid. You didn't get on in college, you didn't get on a cafeteria tray and go down a hill. It's the same thing.
That is not just sledding.
Come on.
Well,
you didn't answer the question. Have you gone sledding on a cafeteria tray?